Once I met someone who showed me an animation. These dots were moving in different directions, crashing into each other. Then, one dot turned blue, and each dot that it crashed into also turned blue, and each new blue dot crashed into more dots. Soon, all dots were blue, even though most of the dots had never met. I tried really hard this past year to reach out to others. I reached out to avatars and initials and disembodied voices. I tried to reach out when I was the only one on camera, using nothing but voice inflection and rhythm and volume. I tried to reach out when I woke up at 3 every morning, afraid to look at my phone and afraid not to. I tried to reach out when my hometown was screaming in pain and the streets were in flames and everyone was pointing fingers, and they still are. And one of us was melting down and the other was burning up, when we were all puddles or puffs of smoke, and I couldn't see through it, when I couldn't walk far enough to get away from it, when I thought if I chose a different path there might be a better outcome. I tried. I tried when I had a headache. I tried when my own eyes were desert red. I tried when I didn't know what I was doing. I tried when I didn't think anything would work. I tried to employ the sage advice. I tried to share it with you. I kept trying when you didn't reply. I tried when my camera was off and no one could see me. I even tried when no one was looking. I tried when I was muted. I tried when it hurt to speak. I tried when I'm quite sure I had nothing of value to say. I tried to reach out anyway, when the Wi-Fi was lagging or down for the count or broken and shattered and thrown everywhere. I tried to reach out when there was only dead air. And for me, it wasn't so bad. I could cope, more or less. While for others, it was a hell with no recompense. It was a hell for people who got so sick they couldn't breathe. It was a hell for the people who loved them. It was a hell for the people who died all alone. It was a hell for the people who loved them. It was a hell for the people who lost jobs. It was a hell for the people who loved them. It was a hell for doctors in the ICU who were worn to exhaustion and afraid for their lives. It was hell for the nurses who did much the same but for much lower pay and still never complained. It was hell for the workers we called essential but were given no choice but to risk sickness or destitution. It was hell for the children of those workers and others who were left alone in their homes and expected to take care of themselves. And it is still hell and burning all over the globe, where oxygen's scarce and the hospitals full, where there's not enough vaccines or too much poison air, while some other nations are throwing out theirs. It's okay to look back on a year like this and say, that was hard, because it was. It was hard for me. It was hard for people I love. It was hard for the people I tried to help. It was hard for the people who lost opportunities. It was hard for the people who loved them. It was hell for the people kept apart from each other indefinitely. It was hard for the kid who spent her first year of middle school at her dining table. It was hard for the kid who missed his senior year of high school. It was hard for the kid who lost out the chance to perform in the school play. It was hard for the kid who could not focus at home. It was hard for the kid who lost a year on a soccer team, who lost a year of birthday parties and sleepovers and going to the movies, who lost a year of goofing off in the hallways, who had to spend time away from loved ones, who had to live inside their home, study inside their home, play inside their home, never leave their home, who had to try to understand why everything was so different, who had questions but were told just don't worry, who were worried but were told to be positive, who felt ashamed for being something other than that, who had to deal with the interminable boredom and sameness and repetition, who had to deal with the interminable boredom and sameness and repetition, who had to deal with the interminable boredom and sameness and repetition, who felt guilty for not having motivation, who felt stuck as the assignments piled up, who felt helpless and hopeless and dumb, even though they are not, who felt lonely and sad and didn't know how to talk about it, who felt lonely and sad and didn't know who to talk about it with, who now feels anxious about seeing his friends because he's changed so much, who now feels anxious about another big change, even if that means going back to what we used to call normal. It's not a bad thing to know that others affect you and that you affect others. It's not a bad thing to turn blue, as long as you know why you are blue, and you are not alone.